There is much to learn.
So thanks to Pat for giving me the opportunity to give this lecture. And welcome everyone else. Today we will talk about the basics of voice acting and how to get started. So I will cover the setup and technique for voice acting. And that's Mila. She and my other cat will guide us through this lecture. So today's lecture will cover the following topics. I will go into the recording space with room tone and ambient sound, so you know what those terms mean. I will let you know what sound treatment and soundproofing is, also what are proper places for recording and how to fix your place. Then we will talk about gear, microphones, phantom power supply, and the interface, because even if everyone can record, you probably need some more things to do it in the right way. Then we will go to microphone technique, which is very important and almost as important as the recording space. Then we will cover recording with Audacity. If you don't have it and you want to get started in voice acting, I highly recommend it to you. It's freeware. And last but not least, we will go to cover some acting tips, where I will let you know what are important things to listen for when you do some recordings, and just some little tips I use when I'm not sure how to do something. All right, then let's jump right into it. So, is there a right way to start voice acting, or is this just stating the obvious? Because obviously, we all hopefully have a voice and probably a microphone, a phone, or the laptop. But the not so obvious requirements for voice acting are the recording space, which I already mentioned, and the audio software, for example, in this case, Audacity, as well as a lot of practice, honing your acting skills, and putting yourself out there. By this, I mean you need to submit your auditions if you want to go somewhere. Even in the Arcane University, in the voice acting channel, we upload the lessons. And I know it can be scary to submit it, but everyone's there to learn something. So please, just do it. Give yourself a push. So now we'll cover the recording space and why it is so important. Voice acting, unlike normal acting, just relies on the sound. So you want to put your voice in the spotlight, and you want it to be the star of the show. You want the listener to hear every detail, like all of the emotions. And you also want to avoid disturbances because they distract from your voice. Imagine you're giving this amazing performance, like it's high fantasy Skyrim, and you're doing an NPC and you're talking about loss and grief because probably the Nords and the Imperials are fighting, and then suddenly there are some background noises and it's just distracting. So the quality is obviously not just determined by the gear you have. Since I said the noise that can happen, we don't have control about this. We don't have control about rush hour and traffic noises, about planes flying over our home. That's an issue I'm struggling with. Or, for example, when our neighbors decide to listen to loud music or children playing outside in the garden. So, we need a place or a space with as little as possible background noise or room tone. So, what is this room tone or ambient sound I'm talking about? It's the natural sound of your recording space when it's quiet. It includes the low volume and subtle sounds that you can, or actually the microphone can hear in every room, and they are present everywhere. Each place has this, and each place has a unique sound. A fun fact, for some movies, they recorded the room tone to keep it even. They used it in different scenes from the same place, so it's always the same because sometimes it's noticeable. And The room tone should be around -60 Hz. Lower is better. I will show you what this is soon, but don't worry about this for now. For the voice acting channel, you don't necessarily need to have the -60 Hz. And I will show you now in Audacity what it looks like. There you see this flat line, and it's like nothing is there. But don't be fooled, there definitely is something. Because this is what it looks like. It's the dark beginning here, and the pale yellow orangish line down there could be the fan of my laptop. So even if it looks flat like in the blue recording line, it definitely is there. And now just an example of what we actually want for room tone. We want to see space, like nothing, but that's almost impossible. So what are some things that can affect the room tone? Flat and smooth surfaces, like walls that we have, um, blank walls and windows, hard surfaces like floor tiles, like a bathroom. That is actually the worst place to record something because it generates a lot of reverb. And also the ceiling, because when I started to record, I didn't think about the floor. I covered the ceiling, but I didn't think that I had to cover the floor as well. Um, Another thing that affects the room tone is the ventilation of a PC or a laptop. If you have the opportunity to place it somewhere afar, just do it. Also, another thing that could be noticeable background noise is a cat meowing in front of the door or anything similar to it, like a dog barking. Well, that's actually my cat. She was hiding on my booth, and then I noticed the meowing in my recordings. Also, another thing that can affect the room tone is electrical interference noise. It's this humming sound that you can sometimes hear. It's noticeable, and you can fix it by isolating cables with tinfoil. Or you try to plug everything into one plug, the multiple plugs, and just place it there. I heard that people try to not cross cables, but the tinfoil fix should work. One time I heard that a different cable somewhere close by caused this interference noise. So make sure to keep your workspace clean from different or other electrical cables and things. And in case you're thinking your microphone isn't good enough, a good microphone is, of course, fine, but it always picks up more of the background noise. So a well-treated room is crucial. And sometimes it's better to not have the best microphone because you can avoid a bit of the background noise. So, how do you do a cheap, low budget recording space, and what are some options that you have? Well, you can have a walk in wardrobe because the clothes offer some texture that swallows the sound, and it will avoid reverb. You can also build a blanket or a pillow fort. That's what I did in my beginnings. I was hiding under multiple blankets, and by this I avoided most of the reverb. Or if you are someone who loves to read, you can surround yourself with bookshelves or acoustic images. Or, of course, you can build your own booth, but that's not the cheapest option. If you have a walk-in wardrobe, or you can build a proper pillow fort, or some do-it-yourself recording boxes. They're very small ones, and I will post a link later. Then you can just go with this, and if you try it out, just use a blanket and don't record into the corner of your room if you try for the first time. It's best to hang up a blanket in front of you and speak into the direction of the blanket. Or if it's the corner of the room, just put a blanket there so you avoid the reverb. All right. So the things I talked about are sound treatment, and there's a difference between sound treatment and sound proofing. Sound treatment is, for example, acoustic foam that helps to reduce reverb, and you get the best results by treating the entire recording space with it. You will already get improvements when you treat just a little bit of the room, or if you compare a recording in your regular room and then you hang up some blankets. There will be a difference. Even if you can't immediately hear it, if you turn the volume up, you will probably be able to pick it up. Or where it's more noticeable when you record combat lines and you scream, then it's very noticeable. And soundproofing, on the other side, means that no sound can leave or enter your recording space. Therefore, you need thicker walls that include sound insulation. And this is what you usually find in a professional tone in a sound studio, where people record instruments that are really loud or just vocals. Here is an example of a do-it-yourself booth with just sound treatment. That's actually mine. And you can see the components. It's just a wooden construct. I used chipboard walls and acoustic foam as sound treatment. I don't have a door, which you could use. And if you want it soundproofed, you need to block the small openings of the door. But by this, I have a curtain. Actually, I have two curtains because by this it's a bit thicker and it reduces a little bit from the noise that could enter it. But if there's something too close to it, it's definitely noticeable in my recording. All right. So, after we talked about the recording space, we will cover now the basics of microphones. Because they are not just two different kinds of microphones usually used in voice acting, there are also two different kind of connectors. And trust me, when I started with voice acting, I didn't knew of any of this. I just read like, oh yeah, those are microphones. So they will work, right? No, it's a little bit more than this. So there are the dynamic and condenser microphones. Dynamic microphones are usually more robust compared to a condenser mic, and they can handle loud sounds very well, for example, drum, bass. This is also because they have a lower sensitivity. That means they don't pick up so much of the background noise, but they also don't pick up the high sounds. They usually don't need phantom power. I will cover phantom power later. And maybe you know one very popular dynamic microphone. It's commonly used in broadcasts, and it has this deep broadcasty sound to it. So condenser microphones, on the other side, are a bit more fragile compared to the dynamic microphones, and they can't handle too loud noises. But this is not necessarily important for us, since the sounds we will make in voice acting for Skyrim mods, we are not that loud. Even the combat lines are not too loud. They have a higher sensitivity, so they pick up a wider frequency response, which means, for example, when you record music, it sounds a little bit more lively because they pick up more of it. They also need phantom power, and yeah, as I just said, they pick up more, which leads to a more natural sound. But still, a really good dynamic microphone is amazing. They are robust, and you can't go wrong if you choose a good one. I would always, if you're considering to get one, compare them. Also, I will post one later, but it's a condenser mic that I will share. We also have some documents with recommended microphones. So, those microphones can have two kind of connectors. There are the USB connectors. I'm pretty certain that every one of you has seen one of them. They are super easy to use. Every laptop has like a connector for it, I hope or think. And they don't require an interface, so they are sort of plug and play. You just plug them in and you can start recording as soon as you have a software for it. The cons of these are that the noise floor could be a bit louder. It's a fuzzy sound that you can sometimes hear, a little bit like white noise. This is because the sound gets compressed in the microphone itself. While on the other side, the XLR connector, those are the round ones with 3 things inside. I don't know the English term for it. The pro is that they have a higher quality because the sound gets processed in an interface, and the interface is actually made for it. And the con is they require an interface, which is something you need if you have an XLR mic. But I got mine used, so it's fine to purchase secondhand. Just make sure that you buy it from a trustworthy source. All right. So the XLR or the condenser usually need the phantom power supply. It's also required by one dynamic mic that I know. Actually, there can be more, but I just know of this one. It's the Shure SM7B. It needs this power supply, this phantom power supply, to boost the signal. And in case you're getting a condenser mic with an XLR connector, the phantom power supply should have plus 48 volts. That's just a number you need to know. And this is an example of one. You don't need to get this one. There are other ones on the market. I just took that image because it's one that has good reviews. And now the interface. This is one of the most common interfaces. It's the Scarlett Solo. As you can see over the logo, it's the connector for the XLR or the phantom power supply. The green circle is around the gain knob, which can change the sensitivity of the microphone. And trust me, this is something that will make your life easier. My first microphone was a USB microphone, and unfortunately, it lacked the gain knob. So whenever I tried to record combat lines, they sounded terrible. It was a nightmare. I still use it, but not for voice acting. And the interface processes the sound without reducing the quality. And you can even change, the 48 volt sign is for the phantom power supply. If you press on air, it sounds a little bit, your voice sounds a little bit deeper. Those are just some gadgets you get with this. So now that we covered the things that we need for voice acting, we can talk about how to place yourself when you record something, because it's not just talking into your microphone. It's actually not so easy in the beginning to do this, but there is a rule of thumb for distance and of access. For the distance, if you do this classic old phone symbol with your hand, then it's approximately the distance from your little finger to the thumb. And you can always just measure this while speaking or recording. It's easy. At one point I stopped needing this, but in the beginning it was very helpful. And this is important because if you are too far away from your microphone, it will definitely pick up more room tone. As I said, I had a USB mic in my beginnings. When I tried to record combat lines, I turned myself away about, I think, 180 degrees, and I moved a step back, and I got so much reverb that it was actually terrible to listen to it, but also kind of fun. And off axis means you don't speak directly into the microphone. but like a fist wide alongside. By this, you can avoid plosives, fricatives, and breaths. So, what we actually want is you speak like my cat in this red straight line, but the microphone should be placed not at the same level of your mouth, but a little bit below or above it, and a little bit to the side. Which side doesn't matter. You can get a microphone stand to hold it, or this sort of metal arm. I don't know what the right word for this is in English. I'm sorry, but you can adjust it and just fix it on the table and move it around. I have one of those. Um, they are amazing. You can also scream and stand because you can just change the height of it when you do combat lines. So there's more for the placement. As I said, with the proper placement, you can avoid some things and you put your voice in the center of attention. If you speak directly into the microphone, as I said, you maybe get plosives. Plosives are those airy sounds that you get when you say PTK or BDG, but it's more like P, like silence and then the voiced ones. And they are very noticeable in recordings if you speak directly into your microphone and if the air hits it. Fricatives are similar to plosives, but it's not this harsh wave of air. It's more a stream of air. Similar to breaths. If you've heard of ASMR, their breaths are wanted. But in mods, they could be a bit distracting, so it's super easy to just speak off axis and avoid them. If you have a script that requires a more intimate recording, so like you talk about something emotional, you can get closer to the microphone because by this it sounds more like you're talking to someone close to you. And still, you should be off axis, but you could also add a pop filter. This helps to avoid plosives and fricatives. Actually, I had one in the beginning. I'm currently not using a pop filter. So, with the right technique, you don't necessarily need it. Additional, while recording, the microphone should not be touched. This can cause handling noise. As I said about the microphone stand, this is one way to avoid it with the arm thing or just one you can place on the desk. When you place it on the desk or in this arm, you should make sure to not touch the table because it can still cause handling noise. But mostly they have this spidery thing there hanging in, and then you can even touch the table and it's not so much of an issue. But if you're just starting and you're just having like a beginner mic, just make sure to not touch it. Place it in front of you, speak off axis, and you will be fine. So, now some more terms about voice acting: the good and the bad, signal and noise. The good signal refers to the voice, and that's what you want to record. There's actually my booth and me using Audacity. By the way, Audacity has a dark mode if you want to use a dark mode. And the bad noise are every other sound you don't want to have in your recording. Some are not to be avoided, like the room tone or the noise floor. The room tone is just there. Even if you have a soundproofed room, there still is some room tone. It's just very quiet. And while talking about noise, the mouth can also produce mouth noise. Mouth noise are soft clicking or popping sounds. They can occur before, during, or after speaking, and they are made by the tongue moving against teeth, cheeks, and the saliva building small bubbles, and they pop. Everyone has this, and it's most noticeable when people are dehydrated. There are some easy fixes. I was super nervous before I started to give this lecture, so I brushed my teeth. By this, I can reduce mouth noise. I also drink some water, which can help as well. So now that we've covered the basics, we can talk Audacity. We have classic settings for the mods, and they are, as you can see on this image, which I'm sorry it's not in the dark mode, at the lower corner to the left, it's 44,100 Hertz. This is the project rate we want to have in recordings. If you go higher, it's not, you can't really hear it. You can always, if you record it at a higher setting, lower it, but you can never up it, if you get what I mean. So just go with the 44,100 Hertz and you're fine. And mostly we want the recording to be in mono. When I started Audacity, the setting was stereo, and I watched multiple YouTube videos to figure out how to change the setting from stereo to mono. And you can do it by going to Edit, which I marked red, go to Preferences, and there switch the channel from stereo to mono. And then you've got the right settings to start recording. Usually, when you audition for some mods, you don't need a sample of the room tone. But if you submit something, like the Hearthstone Isles mod, in the voice acting channel, there is an instruction by Zeke if you go to it. It's one of the threads. There it's a 50-second sample of the room tone that is required. It's used for the mastering to, for example, detect the sounds of a fan. And the mastering team has some programs to remove them. Still, they can't fix everything. That's why the audio and the recording should be as good as possible. And this is just so you know it, but for the voice acting 101 lessons, we don't need this sample. It's just so you've heard of this. And then when you're finished with your recording, you want to save it appropriately, which means you don't want to lose track of your progress. And also, us teachers don't want to lose track of your progress. So you could do it like I did it here as an example, with the date and lesson 1, take 1. By this, it's easier for me to see if you upload a new lesson, if you've already done one previously, and I can compare them, and I can hear your progress, or maybe I notice something. And also, if you want to listen to your first recordings, it makes it easier. Then you know, oh, there I was working on, for example, enunciation, and then you worked on something else. And it really helps to see that you made progress, because it's not that visible like drawing. You can't compare a drawing, you have to listen to it. So I really recommend labeling them and listen to your first recordings. When I do that, it's quite funny because mostly I think I still sound the same, but it's never the same. So, what is voice acting actually about? As I already said, it relies on sound, and so it's performance-based. Voice acting is just your voice. We don't have any other actors with us in the room. We don't have a stage. It's just you, your microphone, your recording space, the script, and the emotions you put into it. Your performance is also affected by the quality, which is not just determined by the gear, but as I said, also the surroundings and the sounds from your surroundings. So avoid disturbances because they would distract from your voice. And this is the thing you want to be in the focus. So voice acting is about acting. And one of my favorite voice actresses is Jennifer Hale, and she once said, "It's acting on steroids." And it's true, because you don't have those facial expressions. You can't move around with your arms to show some emotions. Your voice has to display all of the emotions. And that's why it's really important to have good quality and work on your acting skills. So you might say, oh yeah, I would love to get into voice acting, but I'm not a native speaker and my accent will hinder me or it doesn't sound good. I'm not a native, and embrace your accent if you have one. Actually, I got one role because I'm not a native speaker. So every now and then your accent can come in handy. As a not native, I can do the throaty R, and it was required for something, and this was an advantage I had. So just embrace it. It adds to the personality. It gives the NPC you are voicing some character personality. And if you really don't like your accent, you can see if you find someone with a similar voice to yours and listen to it and sort of mimic their speech patterns, the pronunciation. You can work on it. If you want to sound more British, listen to British podcasts or radios and then repeat it in practice. So how do you get better at voice acting? You have to practice by, for example, reading out loud everything you can find. You should work on your pronunciation. I read boring things like the backside of shampoo, the ingredients, and I try to make it sound conversational. It's quite challenging, but it's a fun way to do it. Also, you can do warm-ups before sessions. By this, you can train your muscles or your facial muscles, and you loosen tense areas, and maybe you sound a bit more clear. And also record yourself and compare the progress you made. And for that, you need to hone your hearing, because when I started my journey with voice acting, I thought, all right, I will do it like this. And then I suddenly noticed that people told me, yeah, but you know, you're talking the same through the entire script. So I worked on my pacing. Pacing is the speed of the delivery. And depending on what you're delivering, it changes. If you're really sad, it can be slow. Or if you're super happy and now, like me giving this lecture excited, it can be a bit faster. Also, the pitch. The pitch can shift through the script. It can tell the listener so much more than just words themselves. For example, if you're trying to imagine, you have a scene where your NPC feels very uncomfortable. Probably some bandits are hiding in the house, and then, yeah, everything's fine. The pitch would be a bit higher, and it would give so much more away, like the fear that's hidden under it. So you can also work and play with the pitch. Then, of course, emphasis. It displays what is important to the character / you, because you obviously become the character. So if I want to say that someone robbed me and they stole something from me, I would put the emphasis on, for example, they stole my family jewels, the heirloom. Then this would be the thing I put the emphasis on, because this would be important to the character or me. Then, enunciation. It can vary through the script, and it depends on the emotions and mental state, like tiredness. If you are super happy and sort of bouncy, this is what I associate with this feeling, maybe your pitch is so high that some words are a little bit swallowed by sounding a little bit breathless. Or if you're tired, then you maybe have a little bit of a slurred speech. So those are things for enunciation as examples. And one important thing you should listen for is sounding authentic and conversational. This is something I struggled with in the beginning. You shall imagine to talk to someone, but you're just with yourself. So, what I figured is that if you're speaking more from your throat and not from the diaphragm, like the diaphragm sounds more full and rich, but the throat is more up, then mostly you sound a bit more conversational. And it's practice. I read the script and tried to make it sound as ready as possible. I really overdid it to see the contrast. And then I tried to make it sound conversational, like actually talking to someone. In the beginning, I hung up a picture of my mom and I talked to that picture. It helped me to get in the mood to feel conversational, like there was someone. Do whatever works for you. And for the hearing, subtle might be too subtle. You know when you're angry and you're hiding it. Your friends can probably tell this, but a stranger probably won't be able to do that. So in voice acting, it's hard to overdo it. And sometimes more is better. Even subtlety is mostly a bit more than it would usually be. Here's an example of the script. In the script, your NPC will have different emotions like happy, angry, disgust, and neutral. And it's up to you to find everything in between and display it with your voice. And this is something you can do because you can do this in everyday conversations. You just need to do it when you're in your booth or recording space. So, what do we do when we have, for example, a script and we just don't know how to do it? Let's take this example. I would read it like, come on, get into the spirit of things. So, there are, of course, that's why it's an example, different ways to do it. I could do it in this way. It would be like, come on, get into the spirit of things. But maybe I want to sound a little bit more enthusiastic. And if I want to work on it, you can draw the line over it and change it and see what it does with the sound. And maybe you can turn it into something like this, like, come on, get into the spirit of things, which is way more excited and probably a bit more childlike, trying to motivate someone. Based on the context, you can always see which one feels best for you. All right, now a real challenge. Combat lines. Because I see that lots of people struggle with screaming. This might be due to social norms, mental barriers, people telling you it's a problem if you're too loud, if you speak too much, and we all try to be polite. But when we are in a battle situation, we don't want to be kind and polite and quiet. We want to sound intimidating. Actually, when you're an NPC, you want to sound so intimidating that the Dovahkiin would be scared of you. So you can start with projecting your voice, which is something like you look at a wall and you try to make your sound go towards the wall, like throwing your voice. But that's not enough for combat lines. We want you to go so loud that you lose the control over your voice. There is a fantastic example of that in the voice acting channel. It's from Argyle, and I will not spoil what he screams there. I will probably upload it after the lecture again because it's fantastic. It's hilarious. Yeah, and how to overcome this barrier that you maybe have. Maybe it helps to be in a closed space like your recording space with privacy where nobody judges you and you can take time to get into character and feel comfortable. Maybe it's just that one blanket more over your head that you need to feel sheltered and closed off from the real world. but try it. Go with it. Go loud. Dare to be loud and threatening, because that's what mods want. We want to have an authentic combat situation. I want to be scared. Like when I play this game and someone's running towards me, I want them to scream and rage, spit flying. That's the intensity we're going for. All right. So I talked about all of the setup, the settings, some things you could practice, and we all know perfect practice makes perfect. But there are days when we don't feel perfect or we don't achieve that level of perfection that we're going for. There are days when I thought, I don't like what I'm doing here. Everything sounds terrible. So don't worry. Everyone has bad days. And sucking at something is the first step to becoming sort of good at something. That's a quote that just stuck with me. Because whenever I thought, oh wow, I sound terrible, I just think about this. And even now, with a little bit more experience, I still look back and I still think about this quote. And if I don't like a recording, well, maybe I had to do a bad one to compare it later to a better one. All right. So thank you for your time. I really hope you enjoyed my lecture. And I really hope that you will pass by in the voice acting channel. And maybe voice acting will be able to capture and catch your heart like it did with mine. Thank you. And thanks to the Arcane University for making this possible. All right. Thank you. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them now.
Check.
At Torture Schmorcher, there will be a recording, I think. Thank you all for joining my first ever lecture here. I was super nervous. I'm usually I'm usually heavily introverted, but I wanted to expose myself to this. So next time I have to play a nervous character, I will think about what I was feeling now. So, yeah.
You did good.
Yay,
Thank you.
my microphone is working. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
You got the teacher. Oh,
Um,
I I have this discussions of strange, but when you have this pain throat, you cannot make this voice made, but you will just make this voice. This so no, it's not practice. You have to stay in the time. Okay, guys, waiting. This I forget how one word. Krank. Wait, I not pain. I forget I what. Painful throat. This note made us acting voice. So by this very difficult moment. This
Sorry, I'm not sure. Could you repeat the question?
Wait, please. I think how say. Let me think. Sick. I mean, you have to sick, but this is difficult. When whole time voice acting. But I know the sick. I think how just make this voice. I have the sick anymore. This is difficult.
Like
can
voice being sick is difficult, or I'm sorry.
I think, if you allow me, I think when Anastasia is asking is when she's sick, maybe she has a really dank voice that's super awesome, but then when she's not sick, that voice goes away. She
Oh,
can't do it
yeah.
I
anymore.
feel that. I feel that. Yes.
Yes, but I know the sick. But I made this voice is acting. Like I can just say this grandma. I don't know how, but it's cool, but it's so difficult. Sick is made this voice
Yeah.
acting. This no, this is so difficult.
Yeah, I know. Like every, I don't know, 5 years, I get so hoarse that my voice sounds like, I don't know, like there is almost just this smoky tone.
Yeah.
And people were like, "Whoa, your voice is so unique," and I'm like, "No, that's not my voice. I'm just sick." And I was
Yes, I
really
agree.
sad because I knew as soon as my vocal cords would recover from it, I would sound like my everyday self again. But yeah,
You
I
could
know when I'm.
try smoke more. Maybe
Oh.
it would stop.
that's
Wrong
the
advice
Khajiit
only.
way of life.
I know when I'm extremely
Approved by the
tired, I
Arcane
can sing
University.
the lowest of Garth Brooks songs. It's great.
Yeah.
This maybe this how you think okay, take this little pause, mate.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I should have mentioned this. As soon as you feel like some pain or uncomfort, just take a break.
Yeah.
Listen to your
And
body.
I know. Can't I have this training voice that's easy made as annual voice like this maybe this kid. I take this example. Hey anyone is this? I can just so that's I made this so short that oh no why I made this that's made this
Mhm.
why you say this this is made as this motor stones is
You can do it too.
das ist made this song this made this is training in my voice made this
I can
thing
do
is
it by itself.
made
I
this
can't.
little
Oh,
bit
yeah.
is this I training my voice this way or take it this this training. Well, this my training voice is like this. Fix it. You can make this voice as a little child or gross people made.
Yeah. If you want to sound older, I found one video that gave me advice on it, or actually someone here shared it with me. They were talking about the placement of the voice. You can speak like, for example, very nasal. That's something I struggle with. Or you can place it more in the jaw, and it immediately changes the way you talk. And then you play a little bit around with it, and you can sound like an old lady or like a child.
Shove it
Oh,
all up
oh,
here.
Or you
And
can
I
talk
will,
about Stitch.
yeah, I will let you know
Little
something
punch
funny.
buggy.
I am doing one character that has a bit of vocal fry, and I noticed that I started to do vocal fry every now and then, and I really try to not vocal fry when I use my daily voice. But I had so many lines to record that it somehow just stuck with me.
yes, it
Um,
has a small this lines. It's not light. I know. I met this fan made one. This patapon take voice, but I know this make this boy voice is Arcane, I had this old adventure. I can just made this skin, this voice, and made a female voice. This moment is take this mods female. This all character made as females. My friend like, hey, you can just fake voice as females. I say, I can. It's like of this moment I have this repeated this word does have this isn't I mean this isn't languages is fantasy languages. It's so hard you speakers fantasy languages. This is not how this is not really no. I mean this not really languages. But I heard how talking this any word you check it this word. It's little real hard. This me this made this challenge. And you said this fantasy word.
Yeah, but I think like those mimic
Oh.
for some other people, it's like it's
Give me a
fun.
second. I have to turn your volume up now, please.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Quiet. Is that better?
You're still very quiet, but
Ah, sorry, it's the SM7B without the preamp.
oh
those-
yeah, I've been there, done
those
that.
things are fun, like mimicking and like exploring your voice. But I think the biggest problem is actually the acting part of it. It's like, do you maybe have some advices how to get in the character more?
You can try method acting, like if you've been, for example, let's take voice acting lesson 2. It's about someone being very tired. Just think about that one time, probably when you had to get up in your teens, go to school, and you had to write like a test and you were just not feeling it. You were like, do I really have to? And then it's like, how am I? That's a good question, actually.
Yeah, I
Then
know
you
this one.
get into this state of mind. So
Yeah, but also, like when you're trying those lessons from the voice acting 101, and
Mhm.
like you just going in circles, the same lines, and you just getting kind of, I don't know, stuck on the same feelings, so same expressions. It's kind of
uh,
hard to get out of loop.
I try to do them in a completely different way. If I'm stuck somewhere, I try to, for example, with drawing the line, to change the emphasis. I try to
Ah.
overdo it as much as possible. I try to do it with different emotions, and then I listen to it and see how it sounds. And maybe there is something from other emotions that could work very well for that assignment. And it's also just like a nice way to not get super bored by it. Because I swear, this lesson 2, I have, I think, 6 submissions of it. But those 6 are just the ones I submitted. They are not the actual number of times I did this. So
Oh,
I
yeah.
really know what you mean. But
Usually it's like 20 takes, and you just like picking the best one.
yeah, 20 takes of emotional damage. But the lesson 2 is actually, it's a great example because it's so important that you learn the basics, because it's about pitch, it's about emphasis, it's about all those things I mentioned. And if you take from everything some bits, like you speak a bit slurred, a bit slower, then you add some other emotions, not just tired, but you're also sad and desperate, because you would drink something some random guy that's new in town on Balmora Blue would whip up for you.
Mhm.
Then just feel yourself into it. And if you can't feel yourself into it, just pretend. Fake it till you make it.
Yeah, although it's like always you can hear this fakeness in it. So I was trying to like overdo it and just to pick up some little bits and pieces that I liked, but it's kind of I always ended up sounding like an anime or something.
Yeah, I think a bottleneck in voice acting is sounding conversational.
Yeah. So it's like
It's
harder to actually sound believable and like real.
yes, because you're not in the setting where you're talking to some other person and you know the script. This is the unfair part, right? Because you know the script, but your character doesn't. And you can display this by short breaks. I will give you an example. This is from a script I know because I did it a couple of times. So the character would say, "Oh, I see you've already met my good friend." So there's a small break because the character doesn't like the person and thinks about how to rephrase it. So it's like, "Oh, I see you've already met my good friend." And you can play with small pauses. So it sounds like your character knows in which direction it wants to go, but they don't know which word comes next. But it's a lot of practice. This is my example of the shampoo bottles. I try to read words I don't know how to pronounce and make it sound like I'm talking to someone. Because I sit in a booth and my regular talking voice is not the one I would necessarily use for a character. Because I want people to understand what I'm saying. So I always have to work a little bit or play a little bit with it to make clear that I'm understood, but to not sound like I'm advertising some product.
Practice reading the terms and conditions. That'll get some funky words in you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like everything you can read aloud a lot. And you can listen to patterns of other people talking. It might seem a bit weird, but you can observe how others speak, and you can observe yourself how you feel in different situations. As I said, when you wake up in the morning, then if you're talking, how do you sound? Take notes on those things. Like now, I was super stressed. I will be able to remember that. Oh no, please don't make it a new assignment to read and record the AU rules. But actually,
Too
that
late.
would be
I'm
funny.
already on it.
Oh my goodness. Yes, I think that would be funny. But it's very challenging to make that one sound conversational. But what I can
Yeah.
tell you, don't give up, hang in there, and you will nail it.
The struggle I definitely face is I come from a background of theater and opera. So bringing it back, reeling it in. That's
Oh
what
yeah.
trying to sound more intimate. So that's where I'm having the most struggles, and I think that's where the hatred of my own voice is coming from because I'm so used to projecting it to, 100, 200 people. You have to hear me. Now you don't really have to hear me yell so much, and I don't know if I can handle that.
I can absolutely relate. I've been in a choir for like more than a decade, and then I have some broadcast experience. And this just taught me speak loud and clear. Everyone has to be able to understand you. If the people in the last row are not able to hear you, well, you aren't doing it right.
Mhm.
And now people, in my early takes, people were like, "Oh, you've got a background with audiobooks, right?" And I'm like, "Well, no." "Well, but you talk like audiobooks." And I'm like, "No, but I want to sound conversational. What am I doing wrong?" Well, it's everything I've learned previously which hindered my performance. By the way, I'm seeing people post their booths or recording spaces. I saw that some time ago, or probably Pat asked it. I'm not sure anymore. But building my booth took me a little bit. I will go into the detail of telling you that when I got the construct for it, the wood pieces, I used trigonometry to calculate everything, but the only thing I didn't take in account was the size of the car I used to get the things from the handy shop, from the building. I don't know, the wood place to my home. And
Yeah,
then I tried to load them in the car and I was like, oh no, that's not working.
I feel you on this one. In fact, I've been like developing it in Blender,
Mhm.
but then I completely like built it out of my hand because like it didn't fit the original blueprints. So yeah, it didn't quite work.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
got
but
mine off a YouTube tutorial. Oh, I'm sorry, somebody started talking.
no, it's just okay. It's okay. I made this make this studio's home, this new studio's room. Made this. I use a sofa, not sofa. I make this use a shrunk. I take a shrunk use. I don't know if this. I have not how this made books. No how. Pretty. There's no more books. But I give.
Yeah.
Yeah. But made this room, this studio is little bit this hard made. Can just made this so more books. Those heights might have little bit the size, little bit R4. Yeah.
I used PVC, a lot of PVC and moving blankets. I posted it in the lecture hall chat. That took me a minute, but that's what I have here shoved in my closet now. I emptied it out. So and I moved my PC, very noisy PC, out of the closet. Had to get a lot of extra long cables. But I'm
Oh.
hoping that will definitely do the trick with getting rid of a lot of the white noise I was picking up. Yeah, that's right, Dago.
Actually, build a double floor in order to hide a PC underneath. So it's
Oh,
kind of
dang.
yeah. There's like a drawer, and I just like took out the PC out of the case and just like screw it into the floor of this drawer and like put like the fans and all of that. So it's kind of weird, but it's kind of cool.
That is pretty dope. I've actually toyed with the idea of doing that with my own computers. Just they make deconstructed salads. I'm making a deconstructed computer.
Yeah, the
Oh,
problem is when you like screw the fans to the booth itself, the booth kind of vibrates and like you can hear all the noises.
Mm,
So you have to play a little bit with like kind of decoupling them from the booth itself and maybe tweaking the speeds of the fans. So it's a bit, yeah,
it's a process.
yeah. It's
Yes.
it's half-year ongoing process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my ultimate goal is to have mine look more like Meowzi's here, but that costs money that I don't currently have.
meow.
Yeah, I had like a mosquito net and I was sewing the acoustic form into it, but my cats decided this is the perfect playground.
Of course.
And that's why it didn't work out. By the way, I have a time-lapse video of me building parts of my booth, but I will
Yes,
just share
please.
a screenshot of it. Because that's just it. Because I'm shy.
Share the video though. I love time lapse builds. Please.
I'm a bit too shy, I think, so you will get
Okay.
that one. Exactly. And then it's a massive face reveal. And everyone knows I'm not actually looking like the cat in my profile picture, and I will never get a Khajiit role.
Wait, what? You're
man,
not a
seriously?
cat?
She's not a cat.
crazy.
What?
Come on,
Meow,
I'm with
meow,
you.
meow.
The truth comes out.
Oh my god.
The truth has been revealed.
Cute.
I
It's
feel
This is
okay.
sick,
preposterous.
honestly.
I'm
It's
just
cute.
I'm just furniture for my cats.
But
Guys,
the
if
images
the
is so good. Okay, I
Guys, if
noticed
the
the
cats
images.
roll around enough.
Oh my god,
But
someone's
still,
writing, is
cat.
that true? No way, I can't believe it. There, you're
When did
seeing
you
it.
find out?
And you're only just telling me now? We need to leave right away!
Alaro, Laric, something like
Something
that.
like that. Yeah, I know all of the scripts.
And most
I
days,
welcome
the
you
rumors.
as a friend of my friend Outlander. But I wish to go to my friend's bookstore.
A long username, I'm pretty sure that's how most of us started. That's definitely how I started, just hiding in my closet with my clothes everywhere.
That's a great way to start.
I literally just throw a cover over my head and then read into a microphone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Same here. Well, I used to. It's it's a completely valid way to start.
It's completely this agreement.
Find a way
So
out.
it's a parody.
Grab him! He's over here! Grab her!
I'm sorry.
Grab her!
I told you I
Grab
would
him.
share a microphone that is affordable. Actually, the person I asked for that advice is here.
Yeah.
So, thanks, Seek, for the advice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Always a pleasure.
Thank you, this dude. I think you'll take this whole this good this teacher I have now. This made this acting voice
Mm.
teacher.
Mogmont definitely just made a good point in the chat for people who don't talk much
Grab
and in their
her.
daily lives. I started working from home several months ago. I did not realize how much that would actually affect my voice. So that's another reason why I hate it right now. um, well, I don't talk very much at home. Because my husband has weird schedules, and then I just don't talk to people. There's no conference calls going on regularly, so it's just I'm quiet all the time. Yeah,
And
so
so
my
now.
voice. I mean, that's also coming from an opera background, so my voice is just like, well, you've abandoned me. You don't love me.
Yes.
Oh god.
I would say it really depends on your job. I talk a lot at work because my work requires me to talk a lot. But if you sit at home or on the weekends, fortunately, I don't work. So actually my warm up would be taking a hot shower and maybe sing some terrible songs in the shower. I am very
Singing's a pretty
fond.
good warm up.
I'm very fond of the Phantom of the Opera. It's my shower song, I'd say.
Yes, girl.
I work with kids with autism, so I'm talking all day, every day, especially to myself.
Yes, I have this learn this. I have this course. Yes, I have this music. My learning this play this barabans maybe. But I had this school Ukrainian this music. I just sing this music so more this music is sing really. This Germany does not sing it. This made it play its instruments. It's really. But this have this I can slowly this talking, but I fast this says it's not little bit people not understand. I can't just so by say this one word example. No. Yeah. You can repeat it. You read it. This word. It's so. Then repeat it. This word and this normally says. Way this have this have the scenario.
Meowzi, I do have a question. What are your
That's a good
thoughts?
question. Sorry.
What are your thoughts on cough drops? Using them after recordings, before recordings? Are they effective or a detriment for VA?
Cough drops. I actually haven't heard of that. I am usually drinking tea, and once my throat is sore, I just stop.
As someone who hates tea with a burning passion,
Hot water with lemon.
who also doesn't like water
Water,
or
lemon.
lemons,
I would highly suggest not cough drops beforehand. That can a lot of cough drops have sweeteners in them, and that can gum up the works. Afterwards, do whatever you want, but I would avoid it beforehand. Sorry, I know you weren't asking the room, but
You can just drink it cacao, Neski. You can just drink cacao.
Well, maybe you can ask Alaro or Alaric to whip something. Sorry, to whip something up for you. No, if you have problems, you should definitely do a warm up. And I know you're doing some screamo, right?
I do engage in screamo. Whenever I do recordings, I often end it with a cough drop, about like 30 minutes of no talking, depending on how long I was doing a recording for. But I was just curious if it's like something the voice acting community kind of looks down on, or if it's something that it doesn't really matter as long as you feel okay with it.
I haven't heard of this, to be honest, so far. And I don't use it since I wasn't aware that's a thing. I just try to go with a warm up if I haven't spoken during the entire day, and as I said, drink some warm drinks because that's just good for the throat. And as a voice actress, my throat is sort of important, and even if I don't like tea anymore and I don't want to see it, I just do it.
as the
Is
great
hot
Shia LaBeouf
chocolate
would say.
is hot chocolate a good substitute then?
No, everything with sugar sort of makes the mouth noise more intense, like acidic beverages, coffee. There are people who don't struggle with this. Like one guy on YouTube drinks coffee while doing voiceover or before doing voiceover, and he says it's fine for him. For me, it's definitely not fine. I brushed my teeth before this lecture so I don't have too much mouth noise. I'm not super prone to it, but I'm insecure about it ever since I accidentally listened to a file with only mouth clicks as an output. That changed everything for me. I can't unhear it. I can't unhear it. Yeah. But it's you can just remove it with software, or the editing the audio team can remove it with the software, so don't be too insecure about it. That's just a me thing. Yeah. Drinking water beforehand is important to stay hydrated. You use your voice, you don't want to get a sore throat or a dry throat. And just take care of your voice. Don't scream too much. If you scream, don't tighten your throat, because the way how you scream also affects if it's damaging for your vocal cords or not. But I think there's a compilation of videos in the voice acting channel. And if you're really curious about screams, I would highly recommend watching metal tutorials.
Nice.
This is how I worked on my screams. I was thinking of giving you an example of screaming, but I decided I'm so nervous I just won't do it.
We request the screams.
It's alright, guys.
Maybe
I
we'll
got
have a masterclass one day.
No, I'm joking.
Exactly. I will go from beginner to intermediate and then advanced.